Well, hey guys, thanks for coming back and visiting with me one more time. This is going to be part 3 in our 3 or 4 part series on how to do exploratory travel photography. And today's lessons come to you from the Tampa Bay area in Florida. So yes, we have crossed the country in a wild adventure, and my only advice in doing so is to not fly American Airlines. Like, never. They're terrible. It's really bad out there. So we're in the Tampa Bay area, and this is the famous Sunshine Skyway Bridge. As you can see, way over there, maybe a little bit too far away for my GoPro here to be able to show it to you. But I've set up, and so the lesson for this travel photography, it goes back to something I've been preaching since the first travel episode. You have to incorporate a story. Now, I may get to some exceptions to that rule later, but generally, yeah, every photograph needs to be able to convey and tell a story. And here, I think the story is twofold. For me personally, it goes back to my childhood, and we would come to this area on vacation and stay in a place called Treasure Island, which is just up that way a good bit. And we would cross these really long bridges, and the night before we would cross the bridges, my mom would always tell us the story how in 1980 a boat hit this very bridge here, the Sunshine Skyway, and knocked it down, and knocked in some cars and a Greyhound bus. All toppled off the bridge, went into the water, killed everybody, except I think there was actually one survivor of it. But and the moral of the story my mom was telling was be afraid of the water, have fear, which was an ongoing theme in my childhood. And you hear and you see here what we have in the composition is all this rubble that's making a little barrier, and then the bridge there is in the background. And for me, that just conveys a little bit of the history of the bridge and a little bit of a reminder of that childhood fear of water. Okay guys, this is rule number 843.7. So shooting wildlife in a zoo is pretty much cheating, but it does allow you to get close to the birds or other animals, and gives you opportunity to get a good animal portrait. So let's see how this fella here reacts to me. Guys, thanks for tuning in and watching. I'm going to leave you with just these few photographs. I'm at the south end of Treasure Island, Florida, in the Tampa Bay area, near St. Petersburg. And we've been fumbling around here for our last episode of how to do and explore travel photography, and gave you a bunch of made-up rules. And the number one rule I want to leave you with goes back to the very first thing I said in Nevada is let your photographs tell a story. Without a story, a photograph just, is just documentation. So go beyond that. And for the last photograph series here, I went to just a little bit of a jetty with the rocks. You can see it just from here. The guys fishing there, they were good enough to let me get in there and encroach on their space to take a few photographs, but immediately the story captured my attention. It seems to me almost a kind of a modern days Tower of Babel story where the horizon reaches out forever, stretching beyond where the divine lurks, and then humanity here comes along and builds this tower trying to reach out to God, only to be humbled by their efforts. And the jetty seemed to represent that man-made attempt, that human-made attempt rather, to stretch out and to find what's unattainable, only to have the ocean just beat back their efforts and make it impossible to do so. It reminds us that God is always transcendent, God is always other, God is always somewhere beyond the horizon. But then you stop and breathe and realize that we're contingent beings on that same divine principle that's so elusive. And every time we breathe, we experience the divine firsthand. And the object here, is Abraham Joshua Herschel said, is not to know God, because that's impossible. How can we truly know God? How can our pathetic little human minds ever really comprehend who God is? So the object is not to know God. The object is to be known by God. And I think one of the ways that we can come to be known by God is just allow ourselves to be available to these stories that are all around us. So I hope you go out and find a good story of your own. And if you do, send it to me. I'd love to see it. All right, we'll see you.